Good afternoon, everyone. You have been muted, mandatorily muted. This is a special section meeting that we are having to provide everybody with an overview of the Ring Central platform that is going to be used by the court for virtual proceedings moving forward. I first want to thank Judge Murphy for cooperating to get this presentation together. And I also want to introduce to all of you Hai No, who is the Executive Director of Information Technology for the court. Hai is going to be providing us with this presentation. It is being recorded, so I would ask that if you are going to have a question, please put it into the chat and we can get your questions answered. If you are not speaking, you will be muted. We are doing this intentionally so that there is no feedback for the person that is presenting. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Hai No. Thank you.
Hi, there's some feedback coming through on your line. I just remuted you again.
So, Hai, if you're in a room with anyone else that is on Zoom, you're going to have to make sure that they are either muted so that we don't have any feedback.
Yeah, actually everything was muted. I had two devices, both of them was muted, but because there were two devices connected in the same room, that's, it automatically created the feedback. So that's really just an example of what can happen, guys. Basically, we're holding hearings right now. And what people don't realize is that if they're in close proximity, if multiple devices are in close proximity of each other, whether they're muted or not, the feedback will automatically happen. And I just wanted to show you guys that example to start off with. There were some bullet points that I need to take away from the meeting for yesterday. The first thing we wanted to show was basically the shared folder exhibit process. So let me do a screen share right now. Let me see here. I have multiple things open, so. Okay, can everyone see my screen at the moment? Hello? Can everyone see my screen? I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting any feedback.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So what I did was I sent out an invite into the folder. This is basically the invite to the folder. So when I click on this, you'll basically get something that comes from the courtroom, and it'll just say, this is the folder that you need to upload. You'll just click on the link. As you can see, it's an active link. Click on plaintiff or defendant. It should automatically go through. At this point, you'll just click upload. Then you can click a file or a folder. I'm just going to click a file as an example. Click on the file and then open. And then it automatically gets uploaded. It's pretty much that simple. You can do it via a folder as well. Now, please bear in mind that in order for this to happen, you would have to reach out into a new unit that our DCA, Ed Lehman, is actually going to coordinate with. So reach out to the courtroom and let them know that you have exhibits that you want to upload, and they'll create this process for you. The other bullet point that was mentioned was that the bar wanted to be able to test or practice a connection. So I'll show you that. What I did was I created, and I'm hoping this is going to work because there's two different software running at the same time, but I created a, in my scheduler here, what's called Philadelphia Bar Ring Central Connection. I'll send that URL out to Randy following this call, but it'll be on until the end of the month. All you have to do is click join. And what should happen is you should see this image. Can everyone see this? This is a live photo or a live video of Love Park. Just checking. Randy, if you can just respond for me, because I know everyone's muted, just to make sure that everyone can see the video.
Yes.
Okay.
People have been responding in the chat, so yes, we can see the
Perfect.
photo.
So I'll share that link out, but it'll be an active view, so at least you'll be able to test your connection via Ring Central to make sure that's working. And I'll keep that connection up and running until the end of the month. So during our call yesterday, there was someone mentioned that they want to be able to do what was, I put a note down as role exhibit for impeachment. So by default, when the court hosts these meetings, we block the share feature out for everyone with the exception of the court and the moderator. So when you join, you'll notice that there's a line right over the share screen. What you'll need to do is basically request for the judge to unlock and share that out. So what the judge would do, and I'm assuming everyone can see me right now, but basically they'll click on more, they'll open it up for everyone. And as soon as that check is there, that red bar that was under the share will disappear. Much like right now, you know, there's no video and the mic is muted. But that's how that works. And then you'll be able to share your screen, much like what Randy did for me, that would share this screen here. Private chats. So once you're joined
So hi, hold on
Yeah.
1 second. I'm still seeing the photograph. I'm not back. We're not seeing back at the screen that you were sharing.
Okay.
So as far as I can see, I'm looking outside the courthouse window right now.
Okay, yeah. So that's actually the connection. So as you can see, I connected as the host and also a participant, but the participant being the family court connection.
I think he's connecting on the right, Randy.
Yeah. You see this bar here?
Oh, okay.
So here's private chats. What you can do is when you're joined into these hearings, you can always click on chat and you can chat with everyone or chat privately. Privately, this means that anyone that's in the actual hearing will show up. So as soon as you click on chat, right now there's only 2 devices connected, one family court and me being the host. You'll just click on their name and just type the, you know, anything and it'll basically show up. So that's how you can communicate with your clients.
I guess my only question is, are we supposed to be seeing the outside picture right now, or are you showing us something else?
No, so that's, I'm showing you within Ring Central what's actually happening, because the whole point of this was to be able to show you how Ring Central works. And how to upload the information. What I'll do is I'll exit out of the screen now. So let me leave this. Does that help everyone? So
there's a question that has come up, and the question is, can we ensure that chats are confidential with clients? Or does the court also have access to these chats once the Ring Central hearing is over?
No, so I can definitely say that the chat, if you're doing a private chat with your clients, That is strictly private. The courtroom does not see the text that is being transmitted unless you choose to chat with everyone.
And do you delete it at the end? Is that something that is?
So by protocol, I have set up the system to not record and not save anything following the hearing. The official record is basically the DRT or the court stenographer that is recording that information.
And will all the proceedings be recorded?
No, the proceedings will not be recorded. There is no video recording of any kind, and nothing's being held in the text box.
And can you show us how you can request a private chat?
Oh, sure. So I'll go back into the system. I need to connect just to show you. So when you're showing. So as soon as you're joined into a hearing, first thing you want to do is you want to click show participants. All right, when you show participants, all the participants will show up on this bar here. You'll just hit chat up top right here. And then your options to chat with everyone or chat privately. So you can click private. As soon as you put into this box, the drop down for all the participants will show up here. You'll just need to select the individual and then type in the message.
And I guess the next question I have is, can you perhaps discuss about when will you get the email link to upload exhibits prior to your hearing? Like how do you get that link sent to you? And is it sent a week before or a few days or?
So I'm going to defer that to our DCAs that are handling that aspect. I believe Ed Lehman should be on the call and Kathy Rosella, who can speak more about the operational needs. Ed?
Yeah, hi. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with Administrator Judge Murphy, Supervising Judge Oshesky, and Judge Murphy's law clerks, Bridget and Ben. So as I was explaining the process on that, you will get a Ring Central invite. Well, let me back up a little bit. You will continue to mail notices as we've always done. So once your event is scheduled, you will get you and your clients will get an order to appear in the mail. Ideally, at this point, we would like to be, a few weeks out, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks out, and then follow that up maybe 10 days to 2 weeks before the hearing. Everybody would get the Ring Central invite. Our concern is sending that Ring Central invite too far in advance that it gets misplaced in somebody's email, they lose the link or whatever. So we want to be mindful of that. And we also want to give parties enough time to be able to request a shared folder be created so they can place their documents and evidence into those folders. So the email with the Ring Central invite will come from the courtroom where the event is scheduled. So you get an email from courtroom 3A at courts.phil.gov or courtroom 3D or whatever. The process at this point would be you would respond to that email and say you have documents or evidence you wish to submit or have uploaded. We will then return with a response, as Hai just showed, giving you the SharePoint folder where you can upload your documents. We will probably create that using the case ID number. So whatever the case ID number is, that would be the name of the folder. And then 2 subfolders, one for the plaintiff, one for the defendant or petitioner, respondent, whatever it is. And you will get access to your specific folder to upload those documents. That answer the question? Go ahead.
Yes, Ed, that answers the question. But my follow-up question to that is, I have an expert report that I've uploaded that's inadvertently a draft. And I uploaded the draft not realizing it.
Okay.
And it's 4 days before my hearing as I'm preparing. Do I have the ability to access that folder a second time and replace exhibits once they've been uploaded?
No, as long as you've kept the link, right? If we sent the email out to that link, you can access that folder at any time.
And my adversary doesn't have access to that link until the time of trial?
You're going to have two separate folders, one for you, one for opposing counsel. So your documents are in your folder, opposing counsel's documents are in their folder, and then once they are presented or admitted into evidence, that's when they would be introduced into court and dealt with at that point.
And is the same folder we use, is that folder also for either rebuttal or impeachment evidence? Like, for example, say I have 10 exhibits I want to use for my examination and for my case, and I have some rebuttal evidence that I want to use for, you know, the defending the others, you know, asserting against the other side their defense. Does everything go in one folder for each litigant, or are they separate?
No, at this point, Randy, I would say yes. Everything would go into that one folder, and as we get into this process, I'm sure there'll be some refinements and improvements to it. I don't want to speak for High, but the reason for doing it this way and not via email is by putting the documents into a SharePoint folder, they go through a lot of antivirus scrubbing and whatnot before they get, you know, before we accept them into our servers and print them out. If it's via email, you know, we could be, not that anybody's computers are, you know, laced with viruses, but they could be. And then we would get that attachment and inadvertently, you know, infect our entire system. So doing it this way allows those documents to be cleaned and scrubbed before they're actually printed. Now the actual, go ahead, Randy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I was going to follow up the question because we had a question in the group about, are each side's folders either password protected or protected in some way so that the other side isn't getting into your exhibits and that sort of thing, or it's just really based on the link?
Well, they would be separate folders. So the permission, so you would only have permission for your folder and your adversary would only have permission for their folder.
Right,
And
so they're internally, the way the links are,
I lost her there. Yeah.
I get for my case is protected so that my adversary's link is a separate link and they can't get into my link. Right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And then the other question that came up in the chat was, do you have the ability to upload real time during the hearing as well?
I'll defer to High. I would assume. Yes.
I would assume so.
As long as that's available, you do have access to that, and you do have the ability to upload during the hearing, assuming that you have a separate device to be able to do it.
So High, let me ask you how this plays out in real life, so to speak, right? So I have a photograph during the trial. Something comes out about custody that, you know, mom, you know, didn't lock the car seat for the child, and my client has a picture of it because the older sibling took the picture, and I want to upload this picture while this is going on. Do I have to leave the Ring Central, go back to the link to upload it in order to get that up there? Or is it possible, like in the Ring Central like window we're looking at right now, that I would have the ability to upload the exhibit during the proceeding?
No, so basically, there are two separate sites overall. The exhibits are actually done via our SharePoint for security, and also, again, what's Ed stated, to make sure that the documents are actually clean, scrubbed, and that we're not infecting the network as we're uploading the information. It also gets scanned as we're pulling the information down. In regards to Ring Central, there is no platform there to be able to share the documentation. One of the reasons that isn't established is because we didn't want to be able to have that and be locked in should there be an issue with privacy or anything else. Doing it this way allows the courts to be able to maintain those records and make sure that no one else has access to them.
So circling back to my initial question, they would have to go back to the link and upload it to SharePoint, and then it would be available.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to seal off that question, you know, and I guess another question has come up as to whether or not you upload all the documents in PDF, or do you bookmark the PDF?
Hi, that's you.
Yes. So, I mean, ideally, the way I see it is eventually all this is going to have to get added into our scanning unit. I think it's probably better to have everything in as a PDF to just make the process a lot cleaner.
So just so everybody's clear on the process, the person that will send, upon request, that will send the, create the folders and send the link, the court clerk that's assigned to the courtroom that day will also have access to that same SharePoint folder. So this question about can you do it in real time, the clerk in that courtroom, if you do upload something real time, that clerk will be able to access that folder to then print it and, you know, present it to the judge. It could be we're not sure of all the logistics of that, how that's going to work. Printing, is that going to delay the process? Obviously, the more we have in advance, the better, but understand completely that there's going to be submissions that are going to happen same day, instantaneously. So, I think we're prepared for that.
So, and then a follow-up question is, and hi, this is really directed to you. Do you recommend that that counsel and pro se litigants upload each document separately as individual files, or is it your experience that if like say my secretary takes all of my trial exhibits and creates a folder for, Mr. Smith's custody trial, and she uploads just that folder, is that an easier process than individually uploading files one at a time?
I personally would say that's an easier process. I've tested it on both under both scenarios with single
Which one?
file. I would say upload the folder, so centralize everything to one folder, and then upload the folder. That's just cleaner, so that when it's uploaded, at least in the courtroom, they'll be able to just go straight into the folder and then go through each exhibit instead of having it scattered.
So right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
I just want to say, I think that's fine. I think from an IT perspective, but if you have a large folder, 40, 50, 60 pages, and it's all one folder, I think you need to also think about it from the court's perspective. Okay, now you want to introduce this one document. It's page 46 of 60. People are going to have to flip through to find that specific document. So I think I hear what Hai's saying. I think there also some merit to doing it individually. So you, during the course of the hearing, you're referencing this individual document and not page 46 of a 200-page document.
So
I think there's merits both ways.
One of the goals here of this presentation is to come out of this with kind of some practice points about how to really be efficient with this. And it seems to me that I think what Hai is saying is that if you put, say you have 20 exhibits and they're varying pages, Exhibit 1 is 3 pages, but Exhibit 10 is 60 pages. One of the things that I would suggest the family law section that if you have something that's not page numbered, that you page number the documents that you're going to upload to Ed's point. And secondly, I think to Hai's point, if you have an assistant or if you do most of your legwork on your own, setting up a folder for your exhibits can be a smooth way to upload and get them versus having to do them by individual ones, particularly if your case has a number of exhibits. I did have a follow-up question that someone asked regarding sharing exhibits with opposing counsels in advance. I actually spoke to Judge Murphy about this, and you're not going to be sharing, you're going to serve your exhibits as you would in the ordinary course, as you did prior to Ring Central. And so they're not anything that's going to be uploaded on this platform as terms of your service of your exhibits to your adversary. And Judge Murphy, if I've said anything wrong, please correct me, but my understanding is you are still going to be required to serve your exhibits on your adversary consistent with the rules of procedure prior to pandemic.
That's correct. That's correct.
And I think there was one other question directed to Ed Lehman or Hi, whichever one thinks they can just answer the question. If you have, like, say my client doesn't have a laptop at home and they decide that they're going to come, you know, litigants not being in the waiting room together for protection from abuse proceedings, I guess, is there, when you do a breakout room for the parties, particularly related to PFAs, do you have separate rooms for those litigants on the Ring Central platform?
No, actually, that was mentioned yesterday, and Ring Central does not have the capability at this present time. Pretty much all the video vendors from Blue Jeans, Ring Central, are all adapting to accommodate those needs, much like what Zoom has already done, but that's not available yet.
So is there a function that can at least, you know, mute those parties while they're waiting if they're in a breakout room? I mean, obviously, I think one of the concerns that that's coming through is whether somebody who's, you know, been abused or been subject to, you know, that is the litigant filing a PFA, that, you know, that there could be some intimidation or some sort while they're in that kind of waiting area.
Hi, you can jump in. I'll give my, so we've tested it quite a few times. We're actually testing it today. And much like this Zoom meeting we're in now, the participants can actually join the meeting before the host, you know, launches the meeting. I think we have an option on Ring Central when we send the invitation to allow the parties to join before the host. And we activate that feature because, especially with the self-represented litigant, if they connect and there's nobody there, we have found that they leave. You know, they assume they're having an issue joining the meeting because they don't make a connection, so they leave. So when we send the invitation, we activate the feature that the participants can join before the host gets there. Now, they always have the option to turn off their video and turn off their microphone before the host gets there, just like we do right now. They still have that option. Once the host, and the host will, the first host you're probably going to encounter is the court officer. The court officer is going to make sure the case is ready, make sure all the participants are logged in and ready to go, and then turn the host over to the judge. So the court officer will make sure everybody's there. Once the court officer is in, they have the option to mute everybody. So at that point, we can do that. But as Hai's saying, we don't have that ability to mute that before the host gets in there. So it's kind of, you know, we kind of run the risk. Do we want them to sit out there in limbo, not knowing if they've connected or not connected? Or do we want to make sure, yes, they're there when we're ready to go? So
I guess Ed, let me just ask it this way. I think some experience of some of the pro se litigants, they were told that they can leave and they'll be notified to log back on to prevent any sort of intimidation or harassment. Is that accurate, or is that not something?
No, we would want them in there. So we're sending most of the instructions we're giving the litigants, we're asking them to be logged in 10 minutes before their time, so we know that they're there. Okay, so in the interest of keeping our courts running and moving and trying to hear as many cases as possible, we're trying to limit the amount of downtime between cases. So if we have the litigants ready to go, when the one case is done, we're ready to get the next case in there. So we are providing phone numbers for them. If they get disconnected, they're having issues, they can reconnect if possible. But To my knowledge, we've not told anybody, jump off and, give us a call back if there's an issue. So another piece of advice, just while I'm thinking of it, is, again, even though we're using Zoom, we're essentially using the same type of technology. And you'll notice we see everybody's name there. Okay, you can see my name, I can see Randy's name. That comes from your device. The participant controls that. So if a litigant is logging in from their phone and they haven't named their phone, Ed's phone or Mary's phone or whatever, then everybody sees their phone number. Okay. So people need to be aware of that. Okay. If you don't want somebody getting your phone number, they should name the device, whatever they want to call it. And that's what we'll see. Okay. So it's just something that people need to be aware of. We don't control that.
So is there the ability, I guess the same thing as with Zoom. So say my client, there's a PFA and my client logs on and in order to, are you suggesting that we have them mute or shut off their video until somebody from the court comes on? Is that kind of a practice tip?
I think that's a good practice.
Yeah, I think I would definitely recommend that process, if that is a huge concern for them.
It is, and
we'll at least know they're there at that point. Okay.
Correct.
If they're not there.
And also, I guess they can access via phone if for some reason they don't have a computer, and this is compatible with a phone where you can dial in as well, right?
Yes. So why don't I actually, that you brought up a good point. So why don't I kind of go through this?
Great.
So while Hi's doing that, the example we were playing with this morning in-house, one of the participants connected via phone, their phone was not named anything, and we all saw that person's phone number. Okay, so again, thinking that from a domestic violence situation, if that's the plaintiff and is doing that, then everybody in the hearing is seeing that phone number. So, just a word to wise, they should name their phone, whatever they have, whatever device they have, just make sure it's named to Mary's phone or Ed's phone, whatever they want to call it. And that way we're not seeing that number. Everyone in the virtual hearing is not seeing that phone number. It also helps we've also got that request from the DRTs and the court stenographers because it helps identify who's speaking. If it's just a phone number, if I have 5 people on the phone and 5 phone numbers, I don't know that the stenographer doesn't know who's speaking as they're trying to record the hearing. Go ahead, Aya.
So just getting back to the actual meeting, you'll basically get an invite that looks something like this. It's just going to say from courtroom 3A, 4A, etc. The URL's there, the meeting ID, along with the telephone number, should they, not have the technological capability and just want to call in manually, that's the information for that. If you are on a smartphone, what will happen is, I'm just going to go through these slides. As soon as you click on that URL, it'll prompt you to download and install the app, which is totally free for everyone. Once that gets downloaded, you'll basically close off the app and then go back to the email invite that was originally there, which is this here, and then click on the URL. When you click on the URL, what will happen is all the information will automatically be populated into the app, and then you'll just click join. When you click join, the first thing the app's going to do is ask you to have access to the camera, and you'll just need to click OK, access to the microphone, click OK, and then this is a crucial option, is use internet audio. I would recommend doing that because it's on the app, and that's the same thing for your laptop as well. It's the exact same scenario. And then pretty much you're transported in and everything's done. But I do want to bring up a point, which is all these platforms will only work on the latest browsers. So for everyone on this call, I would recommend going out and getting Edge Chromium or Google Chrome. Those are the two latest browsers that works on every platform. So if you're using Zoom, if you're using Ring Central, if you're using Blue Jeans, if you're using Meets, it's the same scenario. So get the latest browser installed. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my desktop so I can kind of start seeing everyone, because when you share, I can't see who's speaking.
Question for you is whether or not the chat feed, like if I wanted to chat with my client, is that available via video, or is that only available via like a chat back and forth via typing?
It's via only text, so it is strictly text and text only.
And a follow-up to that is, I guess, if I'm on Ring Central, you know, waiting, I guess, I guess I could still mute myself similar to I would during this presentation, and I could actually call my client on the phone, right?
That is correct. It's the
Okay.
same features.
And then the other question, who else is on the screen for the proceeding? Is it just litigants, lawyers, and the judge, or is the court staff, interpreters? Is it similar to a Zoom presentation?
So every courtroom operates a little differently, but I'm going to say really it's just going to be the judge, the courtroom staff, and the participants, and that's it.
And are there video tutorials for Ring Central that are either available online or that you have post this presentation? Is there some sort of tutorial or a pamphlet that you might be able to share that we could give to our section members as kind of a reference manual?
Sure. So basically, Ed and I are in the process of consolidating basic documentation that we can put in one centralized, repository that everyone can access. So we're currently doing that now for you guys.
Right. Our plan on that is to create a remote operations page on our webpage that we will most likely reference in the meeting invitations that get sent out electronically. So rather than because there's a lot of information to share, and it's difficult to do that in a simple, concise one-page document that gets sent out to the people or in an email. So rather than, and there's going to be some little nuances. So the support masters and the custody masters and the divorce masters are all going to be using Ring Central in addition to the judges. There might be different phone numbers, different fax numbers, and whatnot. So if we have a remote operations portion on our website, we can have all that information out there. There'll be a hyperlink to that page on the website in the email invitations that people can just click and get all that information. And as Hai say, there'll be information in about how to download the app, how to, if we have some kind of presentation for the app, slideshow, we can put that on there. And then if we need to tweak it and change it, we can easily do that.
And I guess one other question, Ed, I know that they've been using Ring Central for a lot of the PFAs. Is it anticipated that they will begin using Ring Central for support masters or for the divorce masters? And when do you expect to roll that out?
They will commence on July 22nd, I believe, custody masters and support masters, and they will be using Ring Central. So those meeting invites have already been mailed out. Mail notices and the email notices should have already gone out. And as we said yesterday and the day before, and I'll keep preaching it, their email addresses are a lifeblood at this point. So, the invitations that go out are only as good as the email address that we have. So it's imperative that we have everybody's, up-to-date email information. I'm not so concerned about counsel as I am about the self-represented litigant. So if anybody's touching base with anybody out there, it's imperative that they keep their email information that we have on record current.
So Ed, along those lines, with respect to pro se litigants, will they, on their notices that are being given out to them, are they giving information about how to utilize SharePoint folders if they have evidence or things that they want to upload for the hearing?
Again, they are. Now, so far, we've focused on abuse, and we've only had on the domestic violence portion, there's only been 2 or 3 cases where we had, requests for evidence, and we've done that. So it's kind of been on a as-needed basis at this point. But yes, to answer your question, the information that is sent out, we'll provide that information. And again, we're thinking of what's the best way to do that. That we can. That's probably going to be information that's going to be on that web page that we just talked about. And that would be a reference. And if you need to submit evidence, click this link, and here's the instructions on how to do that. I'm a guy, I get mail. If there's a lot of pages, paper mail, I'm not reading it all. If you send me something in its envelope, there's 50 pages in it, I'm not reading it, okay? But if you give me a hyperlink and I can go to it and I can scroll through it, I think it's a little bit more manageable to do that, and that's how we're envisioning doing that. But yes, they will get the information.
So I want to direct a question to Hai about use of interpreters. And I guess the question is that if I have a non-English speaking client and I have an interpreter involved, it's the same notion. I can start a chat with my interpreter. I can bring the interpreter into the chat with the client.
So if it's an interpreter inside a courtroom, I believe there are already numbers that are available that interpreters can actually call into the call. Can you confirm like what the normal process for requesting?
So we will have, so the process is if we're aware in advance that an interpreter is needed for a hearing, then be it, Russian, Vietnamese, Polish, whatever the case may be, there's a process in-house that we request that interpreter. And that part of that process now includes the language access coordinator for the FJD will give us the name of that interpreter. And so, okay, here's the Russian interpreter assigned for your hearing on such and such a day. We'll get that person's email address. We will send them the meeting invite for that meeting. So at that point, they'll be like any other participant in the meeting. And as Hai just showed, you could have a private chat with that interpreter in that platform. Hai, can you do 3 people? Can you do a private chat with the
yes. So basically, if there are 10 participants in the meeting and you only wanted to do a private chat between 5 or 3, yes, that's all possible.
Okay.
One other question, and maybe you can show us, I don't know if you have the ability to show us, Hai, but if say there is a share, if I have my exhibits in a folder and it's my examination of my witness, do I have the ability to share the screen to share the exhibit? And how does that kind of materialize into reality, right? We upload all these exhibits. I call my client as my first witness, and I want to show my client some, text messages that are my first 3 exhibits. Do I utilize that via share screen? And can you perhaps show us how that would work?
I'm going to say I would recommend using that as a share screen, but all the documents by default should be uploaded prior so that I guess the judge or whoever's sitting on the case can actually review those documents first to be admitted into the trial, I guess, because I'm not a lawyer. But ideally, if you need to share that information during the courtroom, can probably bring that up as well. Or if you have the document on your device, request for access to be able to do the share screen and then share that during the hearing.
Well, in ordinary situations, I would say, Your Honor, I'd like to mark X as exhibit, W1, and then the court would put a little tab on it and say exhibit 1. And if my adversary had an objection, the objections would be, asserted, and the judge would rule on that objection. That's assuming the judge were to overrule any objection. I may use my exhibit now. my folder that I've uploaded, are you saying now that gets moved into a court folder that everybody has access to now? Or is that something a court staff person is going to now pull out of my folder and, you know, make it accessible to everyone? I'm not following the connection between, once I understand how we upload it, I guess I'm trying to kind of understand from you how, in fact, that gets utilized during the proceeding.
So to be honest, I think that's something that we'll probably have to revisit and confirm what the normal process for the courtroom is going to be. I really don't have an answer for you for how that's going to get used. Maybe Ed might be able
Randy,
to.
I think it would be, in your scenario, I think it would be the second scenario is probably the most probable, you know, that the exhibit would be there where we get printed, or it's possible that depending on how each judge may decide to run it. I mean, think about it, all your documents from both sides are in the folders, okay? Obviously, we don't want the judge to see any of that kind of stuff, but in preparing the case, all that stuff could be printed by the judge's staff in advance and available to the judge at, you know, once it's introduced as evidence at that point, rather than have to go through and print it all at the time that somebody brings it up. I think
so I guess, Ed, that brings me to a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
And that is, I think, then are we suggesting now that counsel would have to pre-mark exhibits, because say my adversary received all of my exhibits, right, in advance. I served them on them, you know, and all of a sudden I want to introduce an exhibit, you know, I have no way of referencing it other than to say, oh, well, here's a text message from March 30th I don't have.
I would think marketing is probably a good practice. You know, it's some whether you market some sort of an identifier so everybody can say, okay, this is my exhibit 1, this is my exhibit 2, whatever. So that way it's easily identifiable by everybody. And as far as sharing that, I've talked to some of the staff. We've been using it for about a month now, and I think, I'll knock wood, I think our court staff have become very familiar with it. They've, you know, they're very comfortable with it. I've talked to some of the court officers today, just preparing for this. Some of the judges are into, like you're talking about, sharing screens. They've gotten to the point where they're comfortable sharing screens. The counsel has this, okay, let's share the screen with everybody. So some of the stuff you're asking, some of the judges and some of the court staff are already beyond that point. So as you get into that, you may find that we've already, you know, found solutions to some of the questions that you have. And as you get to that specific judge, that court staff, they've already, you know, identified easy ways that they can do that.
I wanted to ask a question, I suppose, of Hai on the, so if I were to share a screen or want to share a screen, does the judge still see the witness whom I'm examining, or is it simply the screen is the only thing you can see at that moment?
Mute. So basically on every platform, what we've done was basically have dual monitors inside the courtroom that can share. My only concern is when you're sharing that document inside the platform, what will happen is the participants on that call will only see that shared screen. Much like what I was doing here. You won't be able to see anything beyond that unless you're sharing your whole desktop. And if you happen to have that, then that's doable. So the feature in Ring Central, you can share the full screen. You can share just the one application. Like if it's a Word document, you can just share the Word document. It has multiple features, much like within Zoom.
But Hai, it's not a split screen. You either see.
No. It's a single screen and
whatever
single
I allow
screen
you
only.
to see, you see. You don't see that plus something else. You just
No. It's just a full screen. Thank you, Ed.
Right.
I'm sorry. I believe you're
Sorry,
muted.
yeah, I'm muted. I was muted. I have a question for Judge Murphy because obviously there's many different judges who have many different practices, and as a practical matter, whether or not there should be some requirement that litigants pre-mark their exhibits and have that be consistent so that there isn't confusion for practitioners and pro se litigants in terms of whom they're appearing with. And that might not be a question you can answer today, but I'm raising it now because I think that, many of us, don't always appear in front of the same judge. So, I wanted to ask that question.
Yes, we are.
Randy, my response to you is that in the
Can you hear Rand? No.
Now, it's hard to hear the judge. I'm sorry.
My response to you is in the first couple months, first month or so, we are obviously trying to get a protocol in place for every aspect of this. I do have judges who have different flares for different things. Some say the younger judges are rather adept at this, and maybe the more mature judges, not so much. I don't know if that's true. I think that's a terrible categorization myself. This is being recorded. I know, so I should behave. But the bottom line is that I think that's a very valid issue. What my goal is to come up with a uniform protocol that we place on the webpage. Can I guarantee that a judge may not do something different in their courtroom? I cannot. But would we have a uniform protocol? That is always the goal we strive for. And that would be what would ultimately be included on the webpage. So I will admit this is a work in progress. We're pretty well underway. We've actually been doing this a couple months in terms of on a smaller level as we've been bringing everybody up. But hopefully we will have as much uniformity as we possibly can. Okay.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate that, as well as many of the other practitioners on the phone do as well. Thank you. One of the questions that have come up, this is for Hi. It's a question that Ring Central is very similar to Zoom. Can you maybe explain how they are different?
Not much overall. So Zoom historically came out basically as an end user, easy access convenience. Hence, when everyone started adopting, they had all those security flaws. The technology is the same across the board for every platform. We've historically used Polycom. It's the same scenario. What is different across the board is that as we adapt and companies learn that we're using this in a manner that they weren't aware of, they're adapting to it. So historically, like Zoom and Ring Central, we've never used this for court. It never existed. So they're modifying. So as people are requesting for features, their applications team on the back end is basically saying, okay, what's worth doing, what's not worth doing, and they're modifying the application for those purposes. That's basically why, like what you mentioned earlier about the breakout room, Zoom never had that feature. That didn't roll out until about a month ago, maybe two months ago. So, and someone mentioned about the virtual background. That virtual background historically was on the end user side of it. I'm sure that's going to come into all the other video platforms as well, because as users start using the application, they're looking at everyone's input on the application and modifying it.
Thank you. Hi, I have a question about the share feature, and I guess it goes to, when a judge is typically observing a witness testify, they have the ability to look at that witness and observe their facial expression or determine credibility. And so if I were to put a document on a share screen, am I correct that the judge will not be able to see that litigant's reaction or response by virtue of sharing a document. I just want to make sure I understand this clearly.
That's correct.
Okay, and
That's
then
correct.
a follow-up to that, and I guess so as practitioners, you know, sharing a document on a screen is probably not going to be as as something you may want to do if you know, if you're got a witness on the stand that you're looking for the judge to observe. So, and I guess the other question I want to ask about, and this goes to High, some of our matters that come before the court are not always trials. Sometimes there are motions for contempt or motions, petitions for contempt or motions to compel discovery. And we come to these hearings and don't necessarily, wouldn't ordinarily share our evidence prior to that hearing. I guess procedurally, regardless of the proceeding at this point, pro se litigants and counsel will receive a link in advance of any proceeding in terms of uploading any sort of evidence or documents that they might need for that proceeding. Is that a fair understatement?
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's a discussion we're having. We could do that. Okay. The thinking right now is to do it upon request. So once the email invitation goes out, if counsel or a litigant needs to upload documents, they would request we create the folder, and then we'll send the link to the SharePoint folder out, as opposed to creating SharePoint folder for every case, 2 folders for every case, and sending it out for every case. So at this point, now we may get to that point, you know, as we go through, as Judge Murphy said, as we go through the process, if it turns out that in 75% of our cases we're creating SharePoint folders, then it makes sense for us to do it, and I'm just using that number, 75, then it makes sense for us to create a folder on every case. But if we're only getting requests for exhibits in a small percentage of our case, it doesn't make sense to do that in every case. So right now we're going to do it on request.
And I guess a follow-up question to that is it going to kind of be a consistent procedure among the judges that their staff will be printing out all of the exhibits? And in some cases, I guess
right, we don't know at that time. Just as Judge Murphy just said, the goal is always going to be to have a uniform process. If an individual judge's process slightly deviates from that, it's tough for us to police that. But the goal would be that it be uniform. And again, the goal would be to keep the courtroom running as efficiently, as effectively as if people were in the room. So to open up a folder, find a document, print a document, hand it to the judge, that's a cumbersome process that takes place in the courtroom. So if we can get everybody on board that happens beforehand, I think that would be the goal. But will there be nuances? Yes, there probably will be.
Well, I guess a follow-up to that is, by way of example, if I have a PFA case and I want to show the injuries to my client by way of photographs, would it be, I guess the question is, and whether or not those photographs would be printed out in kind of a high color resolution printer, or are we just safe to assume that, those folders are available online and that presumably once it's being offered, the judge will access it and look at it via online, I guess, right?
Right. We don't have high definition color printers in every courtroom. So
right, I understand.
Right.
Well, this we're kind of approaching the 4 o'clock hour, which I'm pretty impressed that we were able to stick to a schedule here. So I want to again thank Judge Murphy for providing us with this opportunity to learn about Ring Central, ask questions, and I really am anxious and grateful that both Ed and High are working together to not only make more specific instructions available online on what will be the new website for the remote operations unit, but I would be grateful as well if there are any tutorials or documentation from Ring Central that you have that you might share with me so that I could put out to the section I think it would be great, a great resource for us to be able to refer back to this. For those who asked questions, I appreciate all the questions that you asked. And again, I thank everybody for being here.
Randy, one thing before you go, I noticed there's 50 some things still in your chat room. All right, so obviously we didn't answer all the questions, okay?
Actually, you did. I went through
okay.
each and every one of them
All right,
as we were
perfect.
going along.
Okay. I was going to say,
So,
if there are others, if you don't mind, if they want to route them through you and then
sure.
to me.
I really have been following the chat on the side
Okay.
of my screen, and I've been asking and responding to people's
Perfect.
questions along the way. So,
Okay, perfect. But if there are others, feel free just to route. Hi would handle anything from the technical side, but if you can get them to me, I can get them through Hi. And that would also help us as we put our website together. These are the common questions and these are the areas we need to address. That would help us as we build that site. This is the information we need to put out there.
and
So
absolutely, we'll bring that to your attention.
Well, I think we're probably gonna go down to the house on Saturday, right?
Okay, well, thanks everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and take care.
All right, thanks
Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.